Let's rock and roll.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Get Realisms podcast, episode 52. I am Adam Chase Rennie.
And I am Christine Chen.
Boy, oh boy, Christine. You had a week.
I had a week. We'll just start off with all the dumb shit.
I hope everybody had a great 4th of July weekend, by the way. Happy belated America birthday.
Yes, happy birthday, America.
Yeah, Christine. You had
I was just starting off before we
fucked up week, to say the least.
Oh God. Well, the thing is that like we're getting older, and like we were saying, like I hope that you will make less stupid decisions, but I guess with you don't, and it's like I started off the week breaking my phone.
So how did that happen?
So
I to explain. I know it's a raw memory, and
I was working out or trying to, and I don't have weights at home. So I used my roommate has like these boxes full of books, and I put books in there, and they were still not heavy enough. So I was like, you know what? I've got this pan. I guess it's a skillet or a cast iron skillet. Cast iron pan. And I was like, I'm gonna put it on top of this. Well, I'm lifting, and the thing slides off and falls onto the ground. And my phone is on the ground because I watch videos to help me with what I'm going to work out. And of course, it smashes onto my phone, and my phone is bad.
Smushed.
No, it was because I wasn't editing on the treadmill. I tried to not do that, and I tried to work out like a normal person, but of course I didn't have weights and smashed my phone. So that was the first stupid thing. It's all technology. And the next stupid thing I tried to do was use this little piece that's sitting here. I just did this like 2 minutes ago. So.
Oh my gosh, ladies and gentlemen.
This thing to connect to my phone to, be able to broadcast our Instagram feed nice and, professionally. Well, stupid me was like, oh, I'll just attach this to my computer. But what I didn't think about is this computer screen is highly delicate. You put any pressure on it, it like does funky things to the screen. Well, long story short, I broke my other computer too. So
well, because you never think about this, right? Because ladies and gentlemen, I've done the same shit. And if you are telling me, listeners, that you have never done a dumb thing like that, you've done some variation of a dumb thing like that, because we've done the same exact shit. And the fact is that you just don't know how delicate a screen is until you break it. And you learn the hard way. And that's the fucked up part about this entire endeavor. Is just like when you do it, you're like, oh, it's not going to be that much pressure. It's just going to be leaned on the screen, if anything. Like it's going to be fine. And all the pressure's coming from the back, right?
No. Yeah. So I don't know if it's like because I'm so mentally and emotionally exhausted that I'm making all these stupid decisions, but it seems that they're all accumulating this week, but it makes sense. I haven't really left my house for almost a whole month, and I just wake up and go to my treadmill and edit, and then that's about it.
Yeah.
That's my entire day.
Yeah, so but
maybe we're close. We're getting close.
For the listeners who don't know, though, editing, I mean, you explain it better than I do, Christine, but editing is like, I mean, it's not like you're just editing a couple of hours here and there. You're having like your day to night, right?
It's day to night. And the reason for this is that they actually have done studies on this apparently, but it's not just editing, it's also with writing and stuff like that. There comes a point where you get to what we call, I believe there's the technical term is flow. It's real.
Yes.
Where you're it's just coming out.
It's a rhythm,
and you're
and you have a
focused.
routine.
Nothing can take that focus away. And it's so hard to get into that flow that when you're in it, you got to stay in it, right?
You have
And so Roxy says, what is the best and worst thing about editing? The worst thing about editing is that you literally need to hold yourself up and basically be a hermit, and which is very hard for someone who is naturally extroverted. You just have to buckle down, be by yourself in an editing room by yourself, and just do it. That for me is the hardest part. The most that I do is I go and take a walk around the block to make sure that I still have some sanity left.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You still see sunlight.
Some light, so that I know that it's. But I've tried to position myself in a way where like it feels like I'm outside. So I have my treadmill pointing towards the window, so I can at least look outside and know like, hey, it's nice out today. And then I'm at least walking the whole time. So I'm like, there's blood rushing to my brain, and I'm actually like physical, and that keeps me on track and focused for as long as I can be. But like yesterday I finally went and saw people. I went to go see, I actually visited Reese. Reese is directing his he's directing his short film for the Louisiana Film Prize. Congrats to Reese.
Fuck yeah, Reese.
It's awesome. They built like a whole set in their house. Yeah, it's pretty.
Really?
Yeah, they built like a fake bathroom to give them space and like the way they want it. It's really cool. I went in and I was like, oh my gosh. They're shooting today as well. So I visited that set, and that was cool. And then I went and saw Camille, and I brought my stuff along, and Camille was like, I do not want to look at Erzulie. I'm like, all right, cool. We'll just I guess we'll just talk about like
life.
Yeah. It's really out of my element.
No, but that's like, you're so right though, because your mind, because I'm the same way with my script. Like you're all in that world right now, and that's all you're thinking about. That's literally from beginning to the end of your day. That's all you're thinking about, and all you want to do is just talk about it.
That's all I can. That's all my brain has the capacity to handle right now.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm also doing like Get Realism stuff and whatever, and trying to like be well balanced, but there's no balance.
No.
Especially with like this kind of schedule that we have, I gotta get this thing done in August, and be fair and give other people their time to be able to do the work that they need to do the best they can, like sound and coloring and stuff. So it's there's no shortcut. You just have to sit and do it, and I think to answer Roxy's other question of like what's the best part, what the part that I've enjoyed the most have been these test screenings.
How are those going?
I've had 3 of them so far. No, two of them so far.
Okay.
One was in my friend's backyard in Austin, which they were very kind. Darren and Christine, who we also shot stuff in.
Oh, right.
Yes.
Yeah.
So in the background, we watched the film, and that was a neat test. Yeah, it was great. It was meant to be very low key. So
it was like industry friends then.
Yeah, industry friends. Just a few. Just a little bit, just to kind of dip the toe into it, and got really good responses from that. And then our second bigger one was in Shreveport at Mini City, and that was amazing because it was actual like big screen, and the speaker system.
How is it seeing Erzulie on a big screen?
It definitely started off nerve-wracking. Like, I bet. Holy shit! Like, I'm about to show this.
Wow.
And then what I could remember was that the speakers at Mini City are actually quite very good. And when
Mhm.
the music kicked in and you could feel the bass, and I was like,
Fuck
it
yeah.
finally felt like a real movie. Does
Movie
that make
ass
sense?
movie. Yeah.
Yeah. You like, I don't know for the listeners out there if they understand. Like, I edit on a tiny, tiny laptop, an
MacBook, 15-inch MacBook.
old tiny laptop, and my sound system is these exact earbuds that I'm using here right now. So I can't hear the nuances of what my composer has put in, and even when I'm with him, he doesn't have the it's he's designing this for for a movie theater, with amazing surround sound and stuff. And so when I finally heard that come through the speakers, that was to me a whole nother experience. And then to hear people laugh
Fucking A.
at the right places and like just seem to have a good time, like that's been the best part of the experience, because most of the time I'm in by myself on my treadmill editing and laughing to myself and hoping that I'm not the only weirdo, like thinking this is very funny, it's all my own experience, but being able to share that experience and watch a film how it's intended with other people, that's very cool. So that's been my favorite part of the experience, and learning. You never know what's clear to an audience and what's clear to you.
What sticks, what doesn't.
I've been living and breathing this film since forever, since its inception. So the world of where this film takes place is very clear to me. I know this world inside and out. The audience does not. And so things that I thought were like, duh, learning that they were not, on screen is, for me, a learning experience is how I can be a better director and later on,
Yeah.
And so that's nuts. And yes, seeing a larger screen, did you notice he's visually? Yes, that is why it's important for me to watch it on a bigger screen, because you will notice details that you just don't see on a bigger screen. Luckily, there weren't a lot that was like, holy shit, that's like, I can't live with that. Like, everything's been like, oh, but yes, everything's different. From the experience of watching on a small screen versus a big screen is definitely
because that was your first experience on a big screen that wasn't a small monitor or your laptop.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, first time. And so that was it was cool to watch it that way and to hear other people trip and be with other people. Yeah, it's also very, like I said, it was nerve-wracking. I had just done some filming in Austin and had driven from Austin all the way directly to the screening, because the night before I'd been waiting on the export, and because I started the export so late, which I now learned the hard way, it takes about 15 hours to export my entire film. Yes, at least. And that's exporting it at 1920 by 1080.
What are you exporting? Lord of the Rings? That is insane.
Well, it's because my computer system. So I don't have the best.
Oh, so your poor MacBook is working overtime.
Oh yeah, my computer is like, what the F is this?
What are you doing?
Yeah. What is this? Why? And so 15 hours to export. Shit. So by the time I finished exporting, it was 3 p.m., which gave me exactly 5.5 hours to make my screening at 8:30 p.m. at Mini City. So I drove directly to the screening, which, again, my car has no AC at the moment. Actually, it's in the shop right now being fixed for that exact reason. So I was like dying going to the movie theater. And like, when I showed up, I'm like loopy because I'm probably dehydrated, even though I was chugging water the whole time. But I was like, whoa. And then like sweaty stuff, and then like seeing people come in and like just like that anxiety. which brings us, actually, it's a nice segue to one of the first questions that we got from Christine Herman. It was a good question, actually. She asked, how do you cope with the vulnerability of sharing creative work? A lot of it is just practice, is getting used to it. I don't think you ever get over the feeling, the nerves. Anytime I show anything, it's stressful. And it's something I just accept, that's just how it's going to be. I will not cease to feel those feelings. They will always be there. They just get less and less stressful because I've done it so many times. But like, it's to the point where if there's a movie that I've edited, I haven't seen in a while, and someone asks me to see it, I've gone to the point where I've watched the movie first to make sure it wasn't shit before sending that. Like, let me remind myself whether this movie I made is terrible or not first. And I watch it and be like, all right, it's actually not bad. And I'll send it to my friend. And I'll do that too with like scripts and stuff. Oh, can I read this? Oh, sure. I'll read it first and be like, oh yeah, I guess it's okay. I'll send it. You know, but sorry, I can't hear. We moved the camera. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me, Adam?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
Okay.
Well, I hear you through Facebook.
This, right, but not through Instagram. Roxy, can you? I'll try to move it, but closer. All right.
I hear you.
Okay, cool.
I can hear you.
Sorry, Roxy.
Yeah. Sorry.
I just need to not talk to the.
We're still trying to figure out audio.
Talk directly, yeah. So,
yeah.
No, it's completely nerve-wracking, and you just, I guess I combat these little test screenings are ways to make it better because they're with people that I trust. Even if that is nerve-wracking, but at least it's like, all right, I did once, it's out there, and these are people I trust, and I know that they're just trying to help me make the movie better. So it becomes less nerve-wracking. But I mean, long story short, is just the way you cope with it is just doing it over and over and over again, right? I think.
I mean, like, you're also tackling like a whole different beast, it feels like, right? Like, because this is Erzulie is, I mean, you can disagree with me, but it is different than fun employment. So
yeah.
but that's what I'm saying though. Like you have these, it's almost like you're trying to practice while challenging yourself. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Like
yes,
you
of
just
course.
you want to put in that time and effort into the editing, but it's going to be a completely different thing. I mean, granted, fun employment, you only had a group you can count with your fingers, maybe. But you know, it's one of those things where now this is a bigger movie.
Right. Yeah. I think the difference too with fun employment is that
I feel like I can't talk today either. This is insane.
Less expectations. It was we didn't know what we were doing. We were ignorant. And yes, the famous saying, ignorance is bliss. It's so true.
It is.
We went in being like, we're going to make an Academy Award winning film. You know, like, I don't know what that means or whatnot. And we just figured it out. But with experience, you understand the proper way to do things. And people expect more out of you because you have done more. And that's good, because you're growing and they want to see you grow as well. And so I think with Erzulie, there was a lot of more pressure. I was working with people who had been in the industry for a lot longer than I have. So there's an expectation there. I've been in the public with my work for a good 10 years already. So there's that pressure of like, hey, I don't want to create something that's shit. And then the third pressure is this is not my money at all. None of it is. It's investor money. And I have a responsibility to treat that money with as much care and respect as possible and to do the best work that I can, you know, and so there's that pressure. So that's what makes Erzulie so hard, is that it's an like immense amount of pressure going in and coming out, and everything. But yeah, how do you cope with it? Is just, you just got to do a lot of trial by fire. The more you do, the less it becomes as hard. I guess it's like, I always relate it to dating. It's like your first heartbreak, right? The first one is going to hurt more than anything else because it's the first time you've ever felt that. But the more you do it, the less it hurts because you expect it. You know what it feels like and whatnot. So that's how you cope with the vulnerability, is just through practice. The other, we actually have a list of questions today, so we're gonna start with that.
Yeah,
which is really cool. The other question that we got was from John Nooney. He asked, what directors have influenced you growing up and why? Well, that's a good question. I mean, for this particular film,
that's a very good question. Wow.
Yeah, for this particular film, like Steven Spielberg, by hands down, Steven Spielberg was.
Wait, did he say growing up?
He said growing up. Yeah.
Okay.
But that is also true for me growing up.
Right. Yeah. Yes.
Because he made the films I was actually allowed to see. Like they were like semi kid friendly and stuff. So I didn't start watching a lot of the other stuff until later. And honestly, like when I actually started to watch movies was more so when I was in undergrad and older. Prior to that, it's my decisions of what I watched was very much dictated by my family and and what I was allowed to watch, and even then my I would say my intelligence for film, my cinema intelligence was very low. So like, what I love about Steven Spielberg is how original his stories are, yet he's able to appeal to a wide audience, and it has to do with the story. Yeah. And with this film, that was the biggest goal, was like, we want to make a blockbuster film, a film that appeals to as many people as possible, that is fun for all, and so Steven Spielberg for sure is somebody that I really looked into. His treatment of suspense is something that I can't tell you how many times I watched just the intro of Jaws or the intro of Jurassic Park. So it was really cool. Actually, one of the test screenings, my friend Carl said, "Oh, this intro reminds me of the intro of Jurassic Park." And I'm like, you nailed it. It is very much inspired by that. The writing was inspired by a lot of the stuff that Jurassic Park had. And a lot of people said that the film reminded them of The Goonies. It's funny because that's one film I hadn't watched prior to making the film. I ended up watching it retroactively and then discovered, oh, it's because Steven Spielberg executive produced it, and also I believe wrote it, or like, he didn't direct it, but he had very much a creative influence on that film.
Story and produced. Yeah.
Yes, and that makes perfect sense why this film would feel like it was influenced by The Goonies. So I would say definitely Steven Spielberg. And then the other director that really influenced me, I'm gonna only name two more. Christopher Nolan.
Yes.
Christopher Nolan. And what I love about Christopher Nolan is that, again, I've found that I really respect directors who have original ideas, but they don't alienate the masses. So like, he's still very much like creating very unique ideas with time and stuff, but he still appeals to a wide range of people. And Christopher Nolan was them. And for me, the film that put him on the map for me was The Dark Knight. That was, I guess, during undergrad when that came out, and I didn't know about Christopher Nolan at all, because I hadn't watched Memento. I hadn't watched anything of his.
Oh, so good.
I went back and watched that.
So good.
but I watched Dark Knight, and what I loved about it was he was the first director that humanized a superhero for me. And I honestly believe he changed superhero movies from then on, because everything after that, superheroes were humanized. And there's a whole series of, the Marvel comics and stuff like that, like where all the heroes are, I felt, more approachable. They're less comic related, and more human related. And that's what I loved about Christopher Nolan. I went and retroactively watched Memento and The Following and everything, and he is definitely somebody that I am influenced by growing up. Now, a current director that I'm extremely influenced by and is, and I wouldn't say influenced by in terms of like style and stuff like that, but more just inspired by, is it's their entire team, but Jim Cummings and Vanishing Angle.
Wow. Yeah.
I am a huge fan of their stuff. And why I'm such a huge fan is I respect directors that just do what it takes to make it work. So if you know anything about Thunder Road, Jim wrote it, he stars in it, he helped to produce it. He also edited it. He also wrote the music in it. And being in that position right now, I have immense respect for creators that do that, that don't wait for other people, that just do what it takes, is necessary to be able to tell their story and make their film. Because I can't tell you how hard it is to raise money. It is so hard to, as a new director. It's no fault of anybody's. It's just, it's a huge risk. And so I applaud any investor that takes that risk with a new director. It is a new risk. There's no, that director hasn't proven that their work can be marketable, right? It's all on faith alone. And to be any filmmaker out there that's gone through this process, like, much respect to you guys for that. And if that director is like, I can't afford to pay blah 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 blah, so I'll just fucking do it myself and figure it out. Hey, hats off to that person, And I know that there's people who don't agree with that, because yes, it's compromise or whatever, but like, that's, I think indie filmmaking is compromise, and I don't know, I think that's what makes some of these indie films so unique and different, is that there's a special element to it that comes from compromise. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense. Yeah.
So like, there's a more personal touch to it. So that at least that's how I think of it, because like Camille sings the theme song in our film. I mean, how personal can you get to it? She wrote the music and the lyrics for it, and because she's a writer of one of the she wrote this film with me, she's able to take that and funnel it into an original song, and you don't get more connected to a project that way.
Amongst other departments she worked in on set. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that personal connection to something makes a film that much more special, in my opinion. There is going to be like I said, the art department, Kelly, Roxy, they all knew about the seed of this idea before it was even written, way in advance. And they were able to think about it and vegetate about it. That time that you sit with something because it's your kid, that all funnels into that film in a way that I don't think you get with films that, hey, you just get a group of people who are not emotionally attached to something. We're paid to work and we're there for a certain period of time. My clock starts when I have a contract. I put in the time that I am paid for, and this is the work that I deliver to the best of my ability. That kind of work is going to be different. I'm not saying it's better or worse. It's just different from the work where you're connected to it from its inception. Does that,
Mhm. Absolutely.
So, yeah. So I think that's the beauty of it. So then the other question that I have is, Peyton said, how do you decide which projects to get made first and which ones get shelved? And a lot of it comes with limitations with resources and how I'm emotionally connected to that project at that time. So when I was writing En route, I was very emotionally connected when I was writing that because it was a topic. PTSD amongst first responders is a topic that I feel very strong and passionate about. Well, the pandemic happened, and from a logical perspective, that whole film is about the medical field. And if I need to be able to shoot and have access to the medical field, and there's a pandemic happening, that probably is going to be a lot more difficult to shoot that film, right? Logistically, because like probably the access into hospitals, the access into EMT. I don't think that it will be as easy as before the pandemic. So that's why I shelved that project for now. It's a mood too of the world, right? So the world has gone through a lot of shit recently. Businesses having to close, people losing family members and stuff like that. And when we're going through such a traumatic experience, people want to escape when it comes to the content that they're watching, right? So with that in mind, I don't think that subject matters that are very strong and very dark is necessarily something that people want to watch. So that also dictates what I decide to come out with. So luckily, Erzulie is, though dark, is very funny. It's a comedy, really, and it's lighthearted, and it's something I feel like people can accept given the circumstances that have been happening around the world. So that's also another reason how I decide what projects get made first and which ones get shelved. Just resources, time, and access to those resources based off of what's happening in the world and the topic, I guess, and how the world will accept it. Peyton also asked, there's lots of questions. Peyton also asked, what's your favorite part of the writing process? This one's hard to nail down for me because I think that the very beginning of the writing process is very fun for me, like the first draft.
Getting the story beats out and discovering the story.
Discovering and learning. Because the world is your oyster at that time and it can go anywhere. And I think that like limitless situation is very fun to play around with. You are building a story from scratch. You have no limits and it's very freeing. And I love that. I think the hardest part about the writing process is when you're got your first draft and then you got to go back and edit it. It's like you made a baby and now you got to tear its arms off and sew on new arms. It's hard. You got to kill your baby first. Yeah, you got to kill the baby and like detach the head and like put on a new head or whatever, like that is, I use that, and I know it's very macabre because it is literally, it feels that way. Is that intense? And so, yeah, that's my favorite part is creating the world. My least favorite part is going back and destroying that world and trying to make it better.
Right. Well,
Yes. And then Candace and Mr. Spanky Pants, Brad, question is more is synonymous, but it's how are you such a beast? And Mr. Spanky Pants said, what should Mama do to make you so cool? And I actually have a serious answer to it. It's the people around me and who I get to work with are what make me work how hard I work and what makes me cool. They make me look cool. And I work this hard because I have a lot of people I don't want to let down. That's why. I'm inspired by the hard work of my team, and their hard work encourages me to keep pushing forward and to do the best that I can every single day with what I have. So that is why I'll sit there and work till the sun goes down and go back and sit there, because like I got to do the story that they put time and justice, you know? So I think that's why I'm a beast. Yeah. And also I have big plans and I want to take over the world and all that stuff.
yeah.
So that
Master of the universe. Yeah.
Yes. Also my Wi-Fi just died, so I got to go back on live again. So, you know. Yeah.
Oh.
Yes, checking connection. You're now live again. So you're going to have to come back and find me so we can go back.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. No worries.
I think that is all the questions that we had so far.
All right. Well then,
which is quite a bit. But
are you going back on
I'm
live?
trying.
Or okay.
I'm trying. My phone. Let me see. I'm trying. Shreveport, man. You need a better internet.
Yeah.
All right. I should be live.
Okay.
So.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, everybody on Facebook, sorry about the delay, but we're still answering questions.
Yes, we're still answering questions.
Okay. And I requested, we're coming back.
We're going back. Going live.
We're going to go live. Yes. So there we go. We're here now. So we were talking about your favorite process in writing, but also there was it was how much of a boss you are on set. And was there anything else to add before the disconnection happened?
I said what I wanted to say. So
great.
It's just more that like the people that you surround yourself with and have the privilege to work with, that for me really inspires me. I'm a people person, so that's why being in this production process is very hard, because I'm not surrounded by people. I'm just by myself. But yeah, I'm inspired by what comes out of other people's brains, like how to make it, how to utilize it to make a project or make a story better and stuff like that. So I'm just constantly amazed by like what Kelly makes, what Reese makes, what Roxy does, what you do, like it's all very interesting to me. And like we're all different, so like what we come out with and the solutions we come up with are all going to be things that you may not have thought of, and you learn from that. So yeah, that's why I work. That's why I'm a beast. That's why I work so hard, is because like everybody else is, and I gotta do them justice too, you know. So
you're an inspiration, Christine. Fucking name.
Yeah. And I just want all my friends to be able to be on set and to make movies the way we want to make them, and to tell stories that people want to watch. That's ultimately the dream. Yeah. And it's a privilege to live that dream.
Do you have any more questions, Christine?
No, I think I answered all of them. I answered paint type. Yep. favorite part of writing process, how are you beast, how did you cope with? Yep, I think we answered all the questions. Do you have any?
We answered? You answered. I didn't answer any of these fucking questions. What are you talking about? I've been here just with my mouth shut, lady.
My bad.
It's fine. It's okay. I mean, I don't know how much time you have. So, I mean, you know, questions were already answered. So I'm like, well, I'm going to let you drive. I mean, I don't know how much more time you want to do. We could take this bad boy for a landing. What do you want to do, Christine?
Let's
We're
see here.
pushing
Yeah,
3
we
o'clock.
can. I guess I can just update how the process is right now. Been editing for a solid almost a month, right? About a month, I think, a solid edit. I mean, we wrapped this project about 2 months ago. And so this whole month has been just editing nonstop. Editing, doing test screenings, re-editing. That's how there's something too that I find is really cool, knowing multiple aspects, is that once I do the test screening and I know what I need, it's a lot easier for me to fix things on the back end because I know how to shoot and I know a lot of the stuff. And so it's just a lot of this has been some trial and error, like, oh, let's try this ADR in here and see if that helps to answer that question, or let's try this and fix it that way and see that helps with the story and stuff. So this has been an interesting trial and error period of learning about just filmmaking and what works with an audience, what doesn't,
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're almost we're supposed to picture lock this coming week.
Yes. Oh shit.
Yeah. Colby, our on-site editor / also VFX person, is coming later tonight to my place, as I don't have a car right now, to take the stuff that needs to be done in VFX. So
yes,
that will be cool. And then things will be going to Nick and I, which Nick is our composer, Nick Longoria from Fugue, has been, we've been doing the music. His music is awesome, man. Music is so important. Can't stress that enough. So we've been going back and forth on music already, and I'm excited to see this thing mixed. Because everything we've watched so far with the test screening has been raw, unprocessed audio. So like the ADR sounds like it's right here when it shouldn't be, and like sounds like ADR, and like there's ambience that's not there. It's not mixed. It's not, So I think that part will be very, very cool to see it mixed and see how it all plays again with new test screens, which we have another test screen that we're aiming for. There's 2 of them. And also, here's a recommendation for any of you filmmakers out there. Setting test screenings is a great way to get your ass kicked into gear, because it's a deadline, right? That once you set that test screening, it's not moving. You can't just be like, hey, JK, not going to do that test screening, and I want to move it 2 weeks from now. I mean, you could, but it doesn't look good,
Right.
Because people arrange their schedules to try to see your stuff. So what happens is that it kicks you into overdrive to try to meet that deadline, and then if you have those deadlines into place, then
the pressure's on.
The pressure's on, and you can actually finish your film in a timely manner. I think that's the problem. That I don't know. It's a pros and cons, because having infinite amount of time to do your film could also mean that you get to, perfect it or whatever, have enough time with it. But I also know lots of filmmakers who have infinite amount of time and they just never finish their film either. So that's it. That's advice, is build in some bulletproof timelines that will force you to finish your film by a certain time.
Right. Just create deadlines for you to
create deadlines. So I have a deadline for July 26th will be our next in progress screening at Create Escape, which is a co-working space in Austin, Texas.
Nice.
I hope that people will make. That will be the first time I'll be able to see the first things of coloring, the things of sound mixing and all that jazz. Because we are projected to be done with this film in August to submit to Sundance. So we'll see.
Fuck yeah.
Yes. So that's where we're at right now with the film.
All right. I love it, Christine. I mean, was there anything else you want to bring up, or yeah, you just been on high gear with Erzulie, so I'm sure that's all your brain can span to.
I'm super boring right now. All I have
well, I mean, I would chime in, but you like with you seizing all the questions, I was like, oh, this okay. So I wasn't sure where the direction of the podcast was heading. So I'm letting you drive this episode. So whatever you want to do.
Is there something that we haven't talked about that you would like to talk about?
Well, I mean, now I'm self-conscious about how much time we have. I don't know if you got to go. Do you got to go?
Let's say one more question, but from you, because you are my co-host.
Oh, I don't have any questions. I mean, I've just been because I know you. What kind of questions do I have? You're my co-host. I get caught up by you just filling me in on all these podcasts anyways. This is me hanging out with you. And then you just take the driver's seat and I'm like, oh, so that's what's happening. Okay. That's cool. So no, I don't have questions. I do have like comments.
Yes. What's your comment?
I have comments that I've been writing down here on my notebook. You talked about in the beginning of the potty, the flow state of editing, also you using that flow state with writing. I'm in the middle of that flow state, and I'm at a point now where I don't know how I'm going to get out of this because I'm approaching the end of this script and I don't know what else I'm going to do after. I mean, I'm going to go back and I'm going to rewrite and I'm going to tweak up some things, but like it's nerve-wracking for finishing. I'm like approaching the finish line. I see it in the horizons and I'm just like, oh my God. So I don't know if you had
nerve-wracked because you don't want it to end, and now that it's going to end, you're just sad about it.
That, and also I'm terrified that it's terrible because I'm my own worst critic.
Natural, but that's a natural part of the process, though. I think it has to do with that vulnerability again. It's like. It's this thing. It's like if we never finish it, then we never have to share it with the world, and then we don't have to be vulnerable, right?
Right.
But now that you don't have an excuse because you are now finished, and the only other thing to do after that is to share it with the world so you can get feedback to be able to make it better, that's nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
It's vulnerability. Now you have to be vulnerable. It's easier to not share your stuff and to hold it up and say, oh, I'm just working on it. It's not finished yet. So that's why I can't show you. But now you have no excuse.
No, exactly. So I'm approaching that point in the flow state of writing. But I am nonetheless super excited about the story. And that's the other part about it too. Like I'm worried that because part of me, what happens with my brain is that if I start to work on something, then I start to lose its flavor, its consistency with it. And then I'm no longer attached to the story. And there's so many things that I've done writing wise that have led me to that point. This is the first story that hasn't. This is the first story that is just like, oh no, all I'm doing is just writing notes, writing notes. Like every single day, every time I wake up, even going outside for a walk, I'm just on my voice memos, yelling at wasps attacking me, and also other notes on my script too, So yeah, I just been in this world, and it's just it's a nerve-wracking time for me right now, because I'm in this world so much that I don't want it to end, like you said, and also B, I'm terrified of, and like you said, vulnerable of what did, because I'm wearing this script like my heart on my sleeves. You know what I mean? Like this is gonna be a raw fucking story that's very personal, even though it's a female-led cast, which comes to say how much of a woman I am. And it shows that, you know, what my beliefs are, what I think about, and and I've lived with these fucking characters for almost 2 years now. I've been
Yeah.
with these characters, and I am dreading the day that the end comes, when I just have to let it go, you know? And you know, it's something I have to learn to deal with, for sure. It's not like I'm never ever going to, you know, not share this story, because I want
Yeah.
to share this story. Now,
Yeah.
the likelihood of me getting this story out there, is it going to happen? I have no fucking clue. But I do know this: it is probably one of my favorite things I've been working on, like thus far.
Oh,
It is my
congrats.
it is my favorite. It is my favorite story, because, like you said earlier, the best part about writing is that it's the world that you made. It's the world for me. And
Yes.
now that I'm pushing almost, I mean, like over almost 2 years now of just living with these characters in my head and on paper, I have a completely different relationship that I had 2 years ago. Because 2 years ago,
Mhm.
I came up with these dopey fucking characters, thinking that there's nothing, and then the setting too. It was just like, I don't know. I feel like I was in over my head. But then, as I keep thinking about it, it feels like, have you ever had like a childhood friend that would just like bother you to play? You know, like
Mhm.
just always constantly bother you. It's like a part of me is bothering me to play. You know, I need to go back, and I need to play within the script, and
Yeah.
keep flushing out these ideas. And even though there's certain scenes that I read, I'm like, oh my God, you know, I can't, how do I live with myself? I just go back and I do it all over again, or I make
Mhm.
it better, or whatever. It's it's a process that I'm in love with now. And it's like the first day I worked on writer's block as just a PA, as just a
Yeah.
dumb PA, meeting you, a panicked, you know, first AD Christine and shit like that. You know, it was just like that day, and then meeting everybody else. It was just like everything. It felt like that here with this script. And I'm just like, oh, this is what I'm looking for. And I didn't
Yeah.
quite realize that until I was in the middle of it. Like you said, like dating, like you won't know until you're in the middle of it. It's like, oh, I am in love. Oh, okay.
Yes.
But then I start pitching my shit to you, and you're not going to give me money. And then we have to break up.
Oh.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. No, it's a terrible joke. But yeah, it's one of those things where I'm very excited about, but equally as excited, I am fucking terrified.
Yes, it's
So
both. It's definitely both. It is.
yeah,
It's both, and it happens at every single juncture of the filmmaking process. Like every single one. I mean, like before it was like, oh, I'm not going to be able to get the money. Oh well, guess we're not going to make the film, right? That's safer. But then it was, but even scarier
yeah.
was when we got the money, because then it was like, all right, we're making this film. Shit,
Oh, now it just
you
became
know.
real.
Yeah, that was even scarier. Like it was, yes, it was.
That is not what
Raising
I
the money
expected you to
was
say.
scary because you know you got to talk to people you don't know and hope that they want to buy into your idea. But at that point, it's just an idea, right?
Right.
And then when we got the money and it was like, all right, we got to do everything, and that was scary. That was scary because then it was like your idea, you know, is on paper, but now it's going to be a reality.
Yeah, you got to
Like,
make this idea happen from soup to nuts.
that's scary. So every juncture is scary, and it's like, I think the way people succeed and do well in this industry is how many like levels of these scary junctures they can pass through.
Yeah.
Right. It's like, I passed this level 1 is like, write idea onto paper. Right.
It's a video game. Yeah.
It is a video game. Life is a video game, and it totally is. But it's like that. All right, cool. Wrote idea on paper. Great. Now I got to make this a coherent thing, and then a whole coherent story. Level 2. All right, I'm gonna put idea into coherent script.
Right.
Past that level. Level 3. And each of them come with emotional excitement and scariness. Yeah. And I feel like the scariness keeps amplifying.
It does, because it like, as you get closer, because it's like seeing a mountain at a distance and you're like, oh, that I can climb that. That's fine. But then once you get closer to the mountain, then you're like, fuck.
Yeah.
There's no way, Christine, we can't go up this mountain.
Yes.
You start on the bottom and you're just like, yeah, there's no way. We can't.
And
we
then
can't
you're
do
at
that.
the top.
Yeah. And then when you get to the top, you're like, what? Yeah.
Whoa.
Because you slayed the dragon, right? You conquered it. You made it all happen. And not only you conquered the dragon, but you've done it so many fucking times that you know it like the back of your hand,
Yeah. And then the thing with filmmaking is it's not just one mountain. It's like you got little mountains, right, leading up to the big mountain.
To the
the big boss. The big boss. And you got to fight the big boss.
You're hiking Mount Kilimanjaro on top of Everest. Like, it's just like, it never fucking ends. And then once you get on top, you can see everything. You can see the world.
Yeah. And you see everything. You see all the mistakes you made.
You see the mistakes, and then you laugh about them. Truly, in the end, you're just like,
yeah,
oh, remember
you laugh
that
about
stupid
it. And
thing?
Like,
we cried about. Yeah.
A new computer and a new phone and a new everything, like, because I was stupid. Yeah, but like, that's life. Yeah.
It is, and I don't dread any of it at the slightest, even though the listeners probably think Christine and I probably complain about it 75% of the time, and we're not. We truly love all of this, especially the entire process, because that's the only way
to survive
is to experience those fucking mistakes and mishaps and whatever, and success too. Like we all have to experience it someday. But yeah, it is. I mean, dude, I never thought in my wildest dreams growing up, talking about inspired filmmakers, like growing up, like I remembered like buying DVD. Like my mom used to work. She was not to flex here, but she used to work for GameStop, and she was a district manager. And there was one time where GameStop, you could buy DVDs and stuff. So GameStop became like my second Blockbuster in a way, where I just went to there and I just kept buying DVDs, and I would trade in DVDs. You can buy and sell games and stuff, and also DVDs in GameStop at the time. I don't know if you could do that now, but at the time you could. And I would just trade out movies all the time. And behind those movies, like I would rent. At the time, my sister, like who got me into movies at one point, rented me 3 movies. It was Reservoir Dogs, Jaws, and a third movie that I'm not remembering.
Okay.
There was, what was it? It was Hook. It was Hook. It was a
Hook. All good films.
It was
2 of which
Steven Spielberg, another Steven Spielberg movie.
2 of them are Steven Spielberg. Hook is Steven Spielberg, Jaws Steven Spielberg.
Exactly. And then also I was introduced to Quentin Tarantino because my sister was excited about this movie that I wasn't really excited about. And she was like, oh my God, Kill Bill is coming out this summer. Adam, you don't even know Quentin Tarantino, do you? And I'm like, no, I'm just this fat, chubby, anxious kid. Just no, I don't know. And then we walked to Blockbuster and we rented 3 movies, you know, and then we brought them home, and immediately after watching every single one of those movies, I go to the behind the scenes and watch like all the BTS footage. Like I see Steven Spielberg
Yeah.
with Robin Williams, like just going through the beats of the fucking scenes, and Rufio and all, like it's
Yes.
amazing. And then with Jaws, like seeing like Steven just like direct simultaneously what the actors are doing here, and then the fucking mechanical shark there, you know, like you can see panic in Steven Spielberg's eyes during Jaws. It was fantastic. It was like, I mean, Christine first week on Earth. I'm kidding.
Panic.
That was a terrible joke.
No, panic. Yeah, total panic. Panic. I mean, like, oh God, why are there so many questions?
But it was the same thing. It was sort of the same thing with Reservoir Dogs too, because this was a script that like Quentin Tarantino's like very like personal about, and that I gravitated to the most, because I never knew a movie can take place in only 3 settings and be fucking amazing. It is such a small budget that you wouldn't never think that, because to me it feels like a Scorsese mobster film, but it was made for a fraction of a Scorsese mobster film made by Tarantino.
Yeah, I'm looking up the, oh my God, it's still $1.2 million of a budget.
Well, I know, but I'm saying like as opposed to Goodfellas. I mean, look up Goodfellas budget. That's fucking insane. I understand. I know. That,
I'm just like,
but yes, I understand. But I'm saying, okay, let's take a step back here. This was also in the 90s too, where barely anything was fucking digital. They still worked with Kodak cameras and shit like that. But anyways, I digress. Watching those behind the scenes, and also going back to the movie store, and then Ashley, my sister, she was just like, oh, do you know Kevin Smith? I'm like, no. And it's like, okay, let me rent Clerks and Clerks 2. Because Clerks 2 just literally came out on video, literally that like December or something like that. It was like a summer release, and then that summer, and she rented both Clerks 1 and Clerks 2. And that was also another mind-blowing thing, that I didn't know movies can be that way. Like it's all fucking dialogue. It's a polar opposite of Tarantino for sure, but it was like I never knew movies could just have dialogue and be equally as compelling as a movie like Tarantino, where you have sort of like a non sequitur scene and they talk about a story, but it somehow relates to the plot at hand. You know, it's very much like that.
Yeah.
But on like a polar opposite scale, you know what I mean? And I found that beautiful to me. That's what inspired me as becoming who I am today. Because at first I thought I just wanted to be a storyteller or like a writer. I was like, oh yeah, I'll just want to do all the writing and stuff. But then I didn't know what directing really meant until like I got older, like when I was in my teens. And then I participated in directing a short film for my high school. And that was a trip. That was like, I mean, we barely did anything, and I didn't have like, it was not even a professional fucking set to begin with whatsoever. It was potato chips in the back of some guy's car, call it crafting. Like we didn't know what the fuck we were doing. Yeah. And that was equally as fun as discovering these directors and stuff like that. So everything sort of like evolves to its one thing. And then you get that same fiery feeling that you're like, wait a second, if these guys can do it and they're no dumber than I am. I'm pretty dumb, but like, I think I can get away with this. I think I can do something with this. And you sort of like kind of set yourself up. And I don't know my life anything else that isn't movies, which is probably a terrible thing to say. It sounds like as if like
I'm in
I
the
am.
same boat, man.
It's not like I'm out of touch with reality. I am very in touch with reality. I watch the news. Shut up. But I'm saying like movies is everything that I know. So if I didn't have it,
Yeah.
I think I would still be working retail, just for the rest of my life, like just doing nothing. I'm not saying that retail's nothing for anybody who's working retail. Retail's an extraordinary profession in an industry that I am not accepted in. And I won't accept myself be accepted in there, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
So that being said, the film industry is sort of like is my home. It's my home, and that's the only thing I know. So yeah, just anyways, it's a long roundabout way of like, explaining who my inspirations are, but it always changes, but it's always the same feeling, that fiery feeling in my chest that is just like that inspiration shot. I call it like there's a comedian who calls it like an inspiration bullet to the chest, and it's just like, ooh, I felt that. Oh, okay. I need to do something
Yes.
about this. I'm now getting like fidgety. Like I gotta work. I gotta do something, And that's how I feel about with a good movie, with a fantastic director. Even like I watched a recent movie that made me felt the same way. Like this Korean film that I had somehow flew underneath my radar. It's called Old Boy. And
Yes, Old Boy.
I
Yes.
never, ever, ever seen it. And I watch it and I'm like, how did this leave my radar? What did I do? What happened? And I watched it 3 more times. Like that's how good it was. Like that movie is completely different than anything I've ever fucking seen. And it's so good and done in such a special way that I don't think any other filmmaker can do that. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like that's the other part about it too. And that's kind of the cool thing about Erzulie. It's kind of like your own, it can't be duplicated nor fabricated. You know what I mean? Like it is its own thing.
Yeah. It is. That was the uniqueness that I kept describing.
Yeah.
It's something that cannot be recreated because people do not know. I knew this place inside and out. I wrote it for specific people that I had personal relationships with that I knew could play certain roles. I brought in people who I've been, learning and growing as a filmmaker with for years, 10 years and stuff. So we have our own nuances that we tied in there that you can't recreate.
No.
So you're exactly right. It is. I think it's all those little personal nuances and things that happen because you don't have all the resources that you want in this world that make it unique and different. And
but it starts in the script though.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And with you and your uniqueness, I knew this was a Christine film when I read Erzulie. You know what I mean? Like, there's no way this isn't a Christine Chen film. Like, blindfold me, drop me in the semicircle of hell with this script. I know it's a Christine Chen film, Don't get me wrong. But that's kind of like the special thing behind it. And that, like you said, that can never be duplicated because it's yours, and I feel like I'm putting in that personal touch so much so in this script I'm writing.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting, because I haven't read your script and I do want to, is I'd like to know, because I've had people say like, oh, that's very clearly a film that you make.
Mm.
What makes because I'm too deeply connected with my own stuff to be able to be like, oh, that is a film that I made. Like, what are the things that make it stand out that is a film that I made out of curiosity?
What are the parts of it, like between writing and in production and stuff?
Like how could you, because like when you watch a Steven Spielberg film or you watch a film and let's say you're blindfolded and you can tell like that's a Steven Spielberg film. I like Nolan is easy. Nolan because it has to do with time and it's like epic and it's proportionate, blah, blah, blah. I want to know from an outsider what you think people will see and say that's a Christine Chen film. What is it?
It's an amalgamation of a few things. It's not
Okay.
just one thing. So the first bit is the atmosphere of what you can kind of get a feel of the atmosphere with the script, but watching bits and pieces of what was conjured in the filming principal photography process was no short of the atmosphere that it's also the paceness of it too. So like the speed and the edginess with it as well. And by the way, I'm explaining it on my side, so anybody else can probably have a different opinion. But this is just how I feel when I see this as a Christine Chen
to me
feature.
it's fascinating because I don't know because I'm in it, right?
Right,
So,
but it's also equally because I know your comedy as well. So I see the comedy bits with it too, because that's where I see the humanity is if you can have a little bit of a comedic relief within something that isn't just so fucking like David Fincher fucking serious all the goddamn time. Take that fucking, shit. Like if the door's knocking, fucking answer the door. Like you're gonna follow through with any comedic bit. And there's no, I mean, I'm not saying that Erzulie's a comedy, but like you said earlier in the episode, you have these comedic timings like in the script and in the scenes that it just works. Like even in a silly Goonies way or a Jurassic Park, a Steven Spielberg way. Spielberg knows comedy. Granted, he's directed some comedies that were, but that's neither here nor there. He still directs movies that still have some sort of underlying comedy with it, but you still have the seriousness of Christopher Nolan. You still have the edginess and the sophistication of him. But nonetheless, you still remind people to not take this seriously. Well, no, you do, but also have fun with it. You have fun with it, Christine. And that's what I love seeing. And that's what makes me excited for a Christine Chen feature, especially like Erzulie. I know I worked on it, but I'm equally just as excited watching it. Because there's no way for anyone else to take your idea and run with, you know what I mean? Like there's like all I see is Christine everywhere. So like I said, it's not just one particular thing. And probably after this podcast, I'm going to think about it more. I'm going to be like, you don't want to know something else that I like about a Christine Chen feature? Like it's always going to change. It's always going to add as well. But, it's the same feeling how you watch a Steven Spielberg movie. You can pop on any movie and you can know if that's
him
Spielberg
or
not. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's the cool part. Is that
But that's the other thing too.
People can tell it's you. Yeah.
Right. That's the other thing though. Steven Spielberg doesn't know that he's doing a Steven Spielberg Spielberg shit.
Right.
So you're in the same fucking boat with that motherfucker. You know what I mean? So like you understand, Christine, that like you can't define your own fucking films because they define themselves.
Yeah.
They kind of show themselves and express themselves. And your characters, by the way, steal the fucking show. They are the ones who are taking the story and running with it, it feels like, for me. And that's what makes a really good script, is letting it feels like the characters are in full control of this story, because I've watched plenty of movies that feels like there's character shoehorned or there's plot shoehorned within like the Beast or whatever with certain characters. It just doesn't fundamentally work in the grand scheme of the film. Whereas in a feature like Erzulie, everything all happens with the characters, and you take the characters seriously, just like any good filmmaker does, just like Spielberg does, well, I assume he does, but you know, it all stems from that, how serious you take your characters and how far you're willing to take your characters too, because you know, sometimes there's not enough risk reward with some of these characters, and you got to have some level of that in a way. And it feels like every single one of those characters have a risk / reward with them, you know? So yeah, I mean, and also too, I'm very much about the story, as little as I feel about the mechanics and the inner workings of the behind the scenes, even though I love the behind the scenes shit of it. What matters to me the most is the story first and foremost.
Yeah,
That's kind
so
of
it's about the story.
That's the reason why I go to the behind the scenes stuff, special features on every DVD that I own. And I still do whenever I feel like, I mean, I don't do it anymore, but when I worked retail, I used to do that whenever I want to feel better. Like I just put on a BTS of, I don't know, fucking Jane Silent Bob Strike Back. I don't know. It's, you know, it's some documentary behind the scenes that I'm just like, oh, this feels like a home to me, and it feels real. So yeah, I feel like the process of a Christine Chen feature it can never be labeled as one thing or another, you know? So I don't know. I feel like, in fact, I'm not only excited to watch the film, but I'm more excited for other people to watch this and understand Christine fucking Chen, you know. And they're gonna get it with this flick. I'm excited. Of course, everyone else with it too, and Camille, everyone along with it, and then fucking Christine, you know.
I'm excited. It's a cool film. I love it. I don't know. I hope other people will too.
I'm sure they will.
Yeah, I hope so. It's a fun film. It really is.
It is fun. I enjoy it. But I think that's I mean, that's been like an hour and a half, I think. Almost. We're pushing it.
Yeah, that's it.
So that's been a podcast, ladies and gentlemen. We got to go for this fucking landing. Because also I'm starving. My tummy is rumbling this entire.
My tummy is like.
I'm starving. So let's go get food. And you guys, GetReelisms.com. Thank you so much for tuning into our podcast. ErzuliFilm.com is where you're going to find the episodes of these podcasts. And subscribe, iTunes, Spotify, everywhere. You guys, come on. Listen in, learn something. Not from me.
Yeah.
But definitely from Christine fucking Chen. All right, ladies and gentlemen. That has been the Get Realisms podcast. Thank you so much. We love you all. We appreciate it. And please send us more questions too.
Yeah,
we are great. On Instagram, Get Realisms on Instagram, Facebook, Get Realisms. DM message, do what you gotta do. We love the questions. It's what gets the show going.